Welcome to the Church Security Answer Man video blog, where it's all about ministry safety, security, and making a difference for people. And now, your host, a former law enforcement officer, criminal justice trainer, and security expert, Captain Joe Puckett.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our discussion, to our ministry security community. This is the Church Security Answer Man, Season 5, Episode 1, and I'm your host, Joe Puckett. I am so glad you're here with us today. We are kicking off Season 5 here of our discussions about church security, and today we're discussing beefing up, ramping up, whatever you want to call it, your security in 2019. What should we be doing? Some other ideas, and what I'm hoping is if you're not doing much, that we can get you to do some things, and if you're doing a few things, that maybe we can add a couple more things to help you protect your people, protect your ministry. I want to remind you, in this community, it doesn't matter what size your church is, what denomination you are a member of, we're all protecting our people and our facilities. And that's what this show is all about, is helping you to do that. That's our focus. So this presentation, as we get started, is brought to you by Church Security University, which is basically the next step. If you want more detailed information in a concentrated location, then that's the place to go. You can find it at churchsecurityuniversitymembership.com. And there is a small monthly fee, and you just pay the fee, and you can go in there and get access 24/7 to church security items, all church security stuff, security assessments, guides for doing assessments of your facilities, your programs, policies that you can just cut and paste. Put your church name in there. Small training courses, lots of materials related to church security. So again, you'll find that at churchsecurityuniversitymembership.com. So ramping up your security in 2019, beefing up your security is certainly an important topic. There's several articles out there right now that are circulating. Church Mutual Insurance Company has a great article in their newsletter that's got a bunch of this information. So what are we talking about? Let's talk about some of this stuff. You know, the first thing is doing something. And I know there's all layers of security going on out there, all levels, because I get the emails and the texts from people, and I know that some are doing nothing still, which I got to tell you, I want to use some strong words, but we got to do something, but we're going to talk about that. So what can we be doing? First thing is hey, just start organizing people. If you're not doing anything, you know, and I think we should have all levels of the church represented. We should have our ministry leaders, staff members, we should have volunteers, we should have congregation. That's all part of this. Eyes and ears are the important part of security. So paying attention. You know, sometimes it could just be overhearing some kind of conversation about how somebody's relative is having a bad mental health week or month, and they've made some threats. And so right up to actually somebody coming to visit your church that's not all together. Maybe they're up to no good, or they're having mental health issues. So we need to have all levels of people involved in this. And we need to be talking about it a little bit. I don't think we should announce from the pulpit that we want members for the security team, but I think that we should pick and choose those folks and go to them directly. I think we need that. And then I do think, you know, there should be some discussion at my own church. We've talked about, we put up some signs and made it to where we encourage everybody to use one main entrance. There's actually the possibility to enter from 4 different locations, or technically 5, I guess, at my church. And we've put up signage, locked doors, to where everybody is supposed to, and a majority of folks have to, that don't have keys, but they're supposed to enter through the main front door. That way we can put somebody there. We can put a member, a volunteer or a staff member around that front door and where everybody's supposed to be coming in, and encourage them to come in that door so that we can screen them. So doing something, getting your staff together, getting your volunteers, congregation on what you can call a security team, a safety team, guest services team, whatever you want to call it. And that's just the first step. Get something going, organize it. And if you're not really organized yet, but you've got a couple people thinking about it, talking about it, have some meetings and start organizing this stuff a little bit. That's really what it takes, is sitting down and discussing it, making assignments, identifying potential crisis. What are the potential issues? And have those discussions, kind of do some little mini trainings, some scenario training. What if this happens? What does your pastor or priest want us to do? So, and some of the common things this currently that we have to look at, first of all, likely issues, service interruptions. Somebody coming into your church and, wanting to interrupt the service, whether they want to stand up and preach a message of their own, something God has sent them to tell you about, or if you've got somebody that interrupts for a different reason. We recently had a gentleman that showed up and he wanted to play his guitar with the band. Plain and simple, that's what he wanted to do. And so, and he got angry when we wouldn't let him do it. So he showed his mental health issues truly that he was having, and so we had to ask him to leave, and eventually called the police because of his angry outburst. You're going to have suspicious people that show up. So you're going to have the service interruptions, suspicious people. Domestic issues are a possibility as well. Somebody's having a dispute with a significant other or a wife or a husband, and they show up at the church together for whatever reason. So, and then we have to prepare for other things. I think that they're not as likely to happen if you look at statistics, but I think we have to be prepared and have discussions about what if somebody shows up with a big stick, or they're using their cane in a violent manner, or they have a knife or a gun. What are we going to do? Then I think that, we do need to start working on written plans. And as I told you before, there's things out there that you can find on the internet. We have some at that Church Security University membership.com site that you can also use. But I think you do have to start moving in the written direction. I don't think that's the first thing you have to do. I run into a lot of church folks who, they're not going to start their security program until they have all the written plans in place. And I don't agree with that. I think you can start having discussions and put somebody at a post that's on the lookout, start having meetings and discussions, and then we can work on those plans and work to get those plans done in the next year or so, year and a half, maybe even 2 years. Because honestly, that's probably what it's going to take most of us. And I've run into some folks who've been working on them for multiple years. And so they keep putting off the security program and doing any kind of security because they're still working on a written plan. And really establish, what is our security plan? What is our response plan for your organization? And that can be part of that written type stuff. What are you going to do? If this happens, what are you going to do? If that happens, what are you going to do? And those plans are out there. I think you need to look at training all levels of people. You need to train your greeters. I think they should be in some of your security training, not all of it, but I think they should be involved in some of it. You need to be using greeters, ushers. They need to be eyes and ears. The greeters are great to come and tell somebody that something's not right out front, or something's going on, or somebody's suspicious, or somebody's acting weird. And they can help you identify potential threats. So suspicious people, suspicious packages, suspicious vehicles. If you give them some training and have some discussion with them on what you want them to look for, they are very valuable tools for you, very valuable eyes and ears for you. You know what? I think that we should also look at plans based on your facilities, based on your land, your parking lots, your building layout. We should be establishing procedures for patrolling exterior and interior areas during, after services, as well as, during the week. What are you going to do to be watching out for something that doesn't seem right? We have kind of a system at my place. It's a smaller church, so at my church, it's smaller. So we have plans where we know where to stand, where we can see 2 or 3 of the exits, but the main entrance is where we want to be focused. And then we take a few moments, about every 15 minutes or so, and we go outside and look around the front parking lot, the side parking lots. And if we just have one person that's stationed in the front, then they can just go out to the corner of the building, the front corner of the building. They can see a majority of the parking lot and see the front of the building. They never lose sight of the front, so they know who's coming in and out of the building. And so they're still patrolling, but they can also still see the front door. So, and once in a while we'll have somebody, if we have an extra person, that walks completely around the building. In fact, I have one guy that's what he really enjoys doing. So is he'll take a walk all the way around the building. So, and whenever he has an opportunity. So, make those plans and literally develop a plan for your folks as to timing, what you would like them to do at the start of the service, 15 minutes before the service starts, 15 minutes into the service, whatever that looks like. And sometimes our security folks are also ushers, so they may have to pass the plate, whatever you call that in your church. They may have to help seat people, so it's a matter of scheduling that. Go in, seat people, and then as soon as you're done seating people, the service starts and that calms down. Then if you could take a stroll out front and look at the parking lot, then come back in. And so kind of schedule those kind of things. That's really what we need. That's what we need to do, is have plans and do the best that we can. And when we're on alert, we're doing a lot more than the churches that are not on alert. And we hear time and time again, those are the ones that are victimized, is they're not on alert. They're not paying attention. And basically, they are very easy targets. So we want to try to be a little bit more difficult target and be able to confront people, greet people, all of that kind of stuff. And don't forget, my philosophy is, if we're doing our security job right, we're also doing our ministry job exceptionally well, because that means we're stopping and talking to people and greeting them and saying hi and giving them tours of the facility and those kind of things. So we're very hospitable as we try to interview this person and see if there's anything wrong with them. So we can do both. That's my perspective. So let's switch gears for a minute. We're going to go out to our remote studio for just a moment to hear from our very own CFO, Bill Stumpf. Bill's got an incident that he's been looking at. He wants us to have a quick little discussion about it, a little focus for us today.
Hi, Joe. I wanted to talk to you about a theft and burglary at a church in Gum Spring, Virginia. Police report say that 2 men entered the Baptist church in Gum Spring at about 10 p.m. on Monday, May 13th. They broke in through a window, kicked in the door, and then got into the pastor's office and ransacked it before going to the library and doing the same. They found some food in the kitchen, cooked the food, and went into the sanctuary to eat the food, and then left a mess in the church auditorium. They then stole the church van with apparently the keys they found in the pastor's office. Eventually, they were arrested. I wanted to mention, Joe, that it seems like a set of cameras that alert you to motion or entry might have helped the situation get resolved earlier, with these guys apparently spending so much time in the church.
Thank you, Bill. That is a great example. That's a real situation that has occurred. And honestly, these guys spending all kinds of time in that building, doing more damage, maybe stealing more items, when realistically, we have some inexpensive cameras out there these days that'll alert you. In fact, I'm thinking of the Blink system. They've been around for a while, and those cameras for free do so many things. They will send you an alert that there's motion. They will give you a video clip. They'll store the video clip. You can check it right on your cell phone. And so it's a great system, and there's no additional charge. There's some of the camera systems that charge you additional money to be able to get clip storage and be able to review the video clips, those kind of things. Blink, at the time of this recording, does not require an additional fee for that. They've just come out within the last couple of months at the time of this recording of a new camera as well that in their lineup that you can actually talk via pushing a button in your cell phone. You can actually talk or yell at somebody that's in the camera view. So, you know, and if we're looking at this wisely, as I've said before, we've got some examples on our YouTube page. We talk about these kind of things on our Church Security TV on our YouTube page. That stuff's free. About camera systems, about flashlights, about different things that you can buy. And these camera systems, you know, there isn't any reason not to have layers of these. And that's the Blink is so good. You need internet. You need wireless internet in your church. And it needs to be a fairly good signal. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be a pretty good signal that you're getting. And I say, you know, the older version of the Blink now is getting to be a little bit cheaper. The one way where you can't talk to anybody, but those are great to put near in areas where, you know, it's not as likely that you're going to have a problem. And then by the main front door or somewhere in your facility, place one or two of those cameras that you can talk back or yell at somebody. And this will help you, you know, you can call the police as soon as you get an alert and you see that there's somebody in the church that shouldn't be there. And or you can also use one of these cameras that you can Blink cameras that you can talk back and yell at the person and let them know that you're watching them, that kind of thing, to prevent folks from camping in the church, being there for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, all night, whatever that looks like, so that they know somebody is aware and somebody's watching them, to prevent some of this stuff. So I definitely like what the example Bill's given us, and I definitely think there's some inexpensive solutions. The last time I looked, the older cameras from Blink are running about $60 to $70, the one way, and the new ones are about $179, I think is what I saw yesterday. So they're more expensive, but there isn't any reason you can't buy the less expensive versions to put in certain areas, and just buy one or two of the cameras that are more expensive that can do the two-way talk, and strategically place those somewhere where you think there might be potential problems, around your offices, around your auditorium. Okay, let's get back to our primary discussion today about ramping up your security, beefing up your security in 2019. I think that you need to, you know, make sure you're checking things, doing, you know, a security sweep. And that's some advice that the Church Mutual gave us as well. You know, this is inspiring my list here today, and certainly doing a security sweep of the building, your church, before you lock up. Check the doors, check the back doors, check the windows. I encourage our safety and security folks, which we happen to call guest services folks, I encourage them when they're just walking around, doing their little patrols and checking with the different kids areas and coffee house and those kind of things, that they're also looking at windows to make sure that the windows are still locked, that a window hasn't been opened or left unlocked, you know, and maybe it's not a problem right then during our Sunday services, but it could be a problem Sunday night or Wednesday night or something if that window is still left open. So I encourage that, and I think that we should be doing careful checks, you know, and then asking members who might drive by the church, who might live around the church, or other people. You know, I've even seen some suggestions that maybe we talk to UPS drivers or FedEx drivers that might go by the church and might just be driving by, and tell them, you know, hey, this is our schedule. There shouldn't be anybody in the parking lot. give us a call. And we can tell members that as well. Hey, if you're driving by, if we know of members that live in the area that are likely to drive by the church, have a conversation with them. Encourage them. If something doesn't look right, call the police or call your security person or call you. It doesn't hurt to ask people to have a look. And if you're on friendly terms with the neighbors, that's great too. Ask them to keep a watch out. There might be other businesses as well, and that's great. Conduct, periodic surveys. Look at things. How are things going? One that's a big one to me is go by the building at night and see how your lights are doing. Are all your security lights working? Are the perimeter lights working at night? Or have some bulbs burned out? Those are important things, and check doors and windows. Make sure they're in good and serviceable condition where they're working like they should be. So that's important. Keep written records as well of the improvements that you're doing and what needs to be fixed as well. Keep those records. And if you do have suspicious people, I'm a former law enforcement officer, but the reality is I encourage you, whether it's because of that time or what, I encourage you to call the police. It's if you have an issue, if you have a suspicious person on your property, call the police. If you have somebody that shows up, you ask them to leave and they're hesitant to leave or you have issues with them, call the police. Let the police know, let the police handle these kind of things. They can escalate very quickly. Even just having somebody that you think is just camping on your property for the night and you don't want them there. Those kind of things can escalate, especially if they have mental health issues or those kind of things. And so I would recommend that you're friendly with the idea of calling police for suspicious people, problem people, things that people that just don't seem right. So, and then I strongly encourage, just like a lot of the literature I see these days is, I strongly encourage that you look at this idea of having armed security on your property. I want to say it's foolish not to be looking at that these days. But I hate to be that strong. I don't want to turn somebody off, but the reality is I'm getting to the point where I think I need to be, because we're just continually see it. Thankfully it's only happening once every month or two to churches, but violence in our communities is on the rise. And it is happening more often to churches, but it's not as often as just our general community because we're not open as often. We're just open typically 1 or 2 main days of the week. And that's, I believe, the main reason we don't see more violence in churches. That's my gut feeling, my opinion, my professional opinion. The reality is, though, I think that you've got to take a stance on this. And we've got to begin to look at having somebody that's armed. If there's a reason, and I know some churches, it comes from way up the chain of command, way up the leadership, and your leadership may be overseas somewhere even. But the reality is we got to follow them, and I'm going to respect them. But if you're not in that position where it's you, the decision's falling upon you, I'm just giving you my professional opinion that we got to be doing something. You got to make arrangements to hire somebody who's trained. We can hire security officers that are armed. Many communities can even hire an off-duty police officer. Or if nothing else, find somebody that we trust in our membership, our congregation, that can carry a firearm and keep it concealed. Nobody needs to know. We need to have a plan, though, that somebody's there to stop these folks, because when they go unconfronted, nobody's able to confront them, then they basically have rule over our people for minutes, and that is way too long. Some of my recent studies of incidents, we just did a survey in the Church Security University membership site, and we talked about 4 of the recent incidents, and one of those, the police chose to set up a perimeter and wait for SWAT teams to arrive. And that gunman basically had control of that church for 40 minutes. That's 40 minutes. And I'm not critiquing the police. I'm just giving you the facts. The fact is, though, that he had a long time control, and nobody in that church had a firearm to help defend or confront him. And I'm here to tell you, don't take my word for it, but typically when these guys are confronted, they stop their process. And oftentimes they stop it by suicide. And so once somebody confronts them, so it's not a big shootout oftentimes, not every time, but there have been some of these incidents recently where there have been more shootouts with police. But the fact is oftentimes these things end when they're confronted by somebody else with a gun. So something to consider, and I'm strongly encouraging you to take a stance on that. Begin to say or show why you shouldn't. Or I encourage you to be looking at, instead of saying, here's the reasons why we shouldn't, because I'm scared to have it, I'm afraid of the liability, whatever it is, I encourage you to begin to seek out ways that you can have at least one gun. Talk to your insurance company. Talk to the local police department. See what your options are. Security. Talk to some of the strong, smart folks who maybe have firearms in your congregation that can maybe be armed and nobody knows it and come into church every Sunday. It's time to take a stance on that. I believe that strongly. That's it for this edition of the Church Security Answer Man. This episode has been brought to you by Church Security University membership.com, where you can find all kinds of information. Church security related. It's all church security stuff, including policies and forms, training, documentation forms. There's so much information packed into there, and new stuff gets added just about monthly. Don't forget, there's more information all day, every day on our YouTube page. Just look for Captain Joe Puckett on YouTube. You can also join that membership site. And, I just want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. And I hope you have a safe and secure week.
Thanks for listening to the Church Security Answer Man podcast. Get more by joining us anytime at churchsecurityanswerman.com.